And so they're in favor of free trade in wine also. What's interesting is when you read all the stories about wine politics in the media, the wholesalers are never supported by the media because their arguments are always seen through as very self-serving. Everyone sees through them. The only people who don't seem to see through them are the lawmakers.
Sure.
They also happen to get money from the wholesalers.
Right, yeah,
so
it was
that.
the whole question of following the money in that regard.
But I think once consumers open their voice or open their mouths and their voice is heard, and once we have 25, 50, 75,000, 100,000 members of this organization, people are going to start to listen.
So what's this is purely wine, or is there beer and spirits into this too?
I think that we'll end up where beer and spirits issues and access to beer and spirit issues arise. You also have wine issues arising.
Sure.
So I think they will all be wrapped up together.
Okay, that's what I was curious.
So there's no question that this organization at some point would, for example, a lot of time craft brewers have a difficult time getting their products to market.
Sure.
And it's usually because wholesalers don't want them to be able to distribute those products themselves. Wholesalers want small craft brewers to go through them, and then the wholesalers will bring it to market. But just like in wine, wholesalers often don't want to deal with someone who's maybe only got 15 barrels of beer, of a particular beer to sell.
Well, and I think also a point with the craft brewers is that you've got the big three companies also kind of really taking hold in a lot of the wholesalers in the first place.
Well, I think I understand what you're saying. We had a really interesting situation in Illinois where InBev, or Anheuser-Busch, wanted to buy a distributorship in Illinois so that it could distribute its own wine. And there's no reason to think they shouldn't be able to do that because other small craft brewers in Illinois had been distributing their own wine. They had been acting as their own distributor.
Wine or beer?
Beer. I'm sorry, beer.
Yeah.
And so the state said, no, Anheuser-Busch, you can't do that. So they sued the state, and they lost. The state lost because you can't let these brewers over here in-state distribute their own beer, but these brewers from out-of-state, Anheuser-Busch, not distribute their own beer.
Right.
But then they passed a law, and this will sound familiar. The new law in Illinois says that if you make less than X gallons of beer a year, you can self-distribute that. If you make more, you can't.
Then
well,
you can't.
believe it or not, Anheuser-Busch makes more than most craft brewers.
Really?
Yeah.
Seriously.
And so now they're
even their craft brew labels, they make more than most.
And so,
craft
but what's
brewers.
interesting is that Anheuser-Busch used the exact same argument that wineries used to open up direct shipping rights. They said that Illinois' law violated the Commerce Clause because Illinois was discriminating against an out-of-state brewer, and they were. This is why the state of Illinois lost that. But every time a brewer or a winery or distiller can get their product to market more easily, that means more choice for consumers. So I suspect down the road, the American Wine Consumer Coalition would probably support things like self-distribution. What we're interested in right now is making it easier for consumers across the country to be able to access the products they want.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's moving forward.
Nice. So, so there's the consumer organization. There's the SWRA. Do you have any other? How many other irons do you have on the fire, Mr. Tom?
With regard to me, think. Well, I do have other clients. There's no question about that, and I work on my other clients' behalf on a regular basis. Beyond that, the only other big thing is I got married recently to.
Well, we're going to save that for the next segment on the show.
Okay.
That's bigger. We'll talk about
that was sort of a big deal
Mexico
for me.
and stuff. No, that's good.
That was a big deal.
As far as again all this stuff from DC, who of our California senators or people are behind this for us in California?
Well, certainly California's most ardent advocates are going to be Representative Thompson.
Mike Thompson.
Mike Thompson, who represents Napa and parts of Sonoma.
Sure.
But I can't think of anyone off the top of my head right now who has agreed to sponsor H.R. 1161. Now that I think about it, there might be one or two California representatives who do sponsor this bill, and I think they're sort of like down south, maybe in San Diego. They're certainly in areas where there's no concentration of wineries, where wineries are not their constituents. California representatives are not our problem.
I would think that like North Central, like the Reddings, the Chicos, that sort of area would be more receptive to.
On the other hand, that sort of northeastern area of California is very libertarian.
That's true,
and it's very conservative.
And that runs counter to this particular.
Our problem is with places like Texas, Florida, Illinois, where lawmaker after lawmaker after lawmaker signs on for this because it's a source. Those states are where wholesalers give tremendous amounts of money Those are big markets, and they don't have large producer markets to counter them,
Right.
Or large number of producers to counter their influence. And so lots of people have come on and signed on to the bill from those states. Turns out, though, right now I think there are 76 co-sponsors for HR 1161, which is far behind where it was last year at the same time.
That's good.
That is good.
Yeah.
That's good, yeah.
Who's taken the biggest role in trying to get that thing going, though?
Trying to get it passed?
Yeah.
Who's the National Beer Wholesalers Association and the Wine and Spirit Wholesalers Association.
And is there one senator or one
Well,
person?
it would be a congressperson. I don't think
Congress.
there's
Well,
it's
right
not in
now,
the Senate right
the
now.
person who actually sponsored the bill this year is a guy named Jason Shavitz
From?
Utah.
Utah.
A Republican from Utah.
Perfect.
He was also he was also a co-sponsor last year.
Yeah.
But I think that the producers in particular, also the distillers and the beer producers, both craft beer and large producers, and the retailers have been very, very effective in getting a lot of publicity for what the wholesalers are trying to do. We've been very effective in terms of rallying consumer support for this, and we've been really vocal. And so a lot of that happened last year with the first bill. So when it came back this year, I think a lot of politicians were sort of weary of this new bill. I think they understood that they might be taking some sort of a calculated risk if they decide to support this bill when everyone knows that it's a Wholesaler Protection Act more than anything else.
Sure.
So I think we've done a good job, but there's
Way to go, Tom. Way to go. Let's hear it for Tom.
Yeah, Tom Wark, right on. All right.
Wine Institute, though, Discus, Wine America, the Craft Brewers Association, those are the guys who've got some heavy-duty muscle in Washington, too.
All right.
There you go. Well, this is Kaz, Randy, and X, and Mr. Tom Wark here with 1164. Right?
1161.
No.
1161. You know what, though? I like
Stop
1164.
HR 1161.
It's coming.
It's coming. It's coming soon.
Coming soon to you.
Anyway, listen to these words about 1161.
One.
And we'll be right back.